Greetings everyone, it is Zakhele and welcome back to the channel. This week, I want us to talk about commissions of inquiry. This is prompted, of course, by the president recently, appointing appointing Justice Madlanga, the soon-to-be retired Justice Madlanga, to head the commission of inquiry to investigate the allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, right? And of course, to no one's surprise, I don't think anyone was surprised that the president's response would be this. Maybe we're surprised by the slap on the wrist, if we can even term it that he gave to the ministers implicated in these allegations, in Minister Mthembu, in only giving him suspended leave. And then you contrast it to the Deputy Minister in Trade, Industry and Competition Ministry, who was outrightly just dismissed for taking a trip. And then you start seeing these double standards, and whether, by that, whether the president is taking the entire enterprise really and the entire allegations, which are pretty damning, right, for the general functioning of especially the criminal justice system, and seriously, whether he takes them seriously or not. But this week we'll be talking about, commissions of inquiries. What are they? I don't think we need to, dwell too much on this in South Africa. This is something that cuts across the board, right? Whether you're an old South African or a fairly young one, you would know what a commission of inquiry is, because chances are you experienced multiple in your lifetime, right? But a commission of inquiry is a forum, for lack of a better term, that the president has the power to institute, to investigate things that are of a public concern, right? This would be a very general description of it. The president is empowered, of course, by our constitution in section 84 to appoint said commissions of inquiries. So that's what they are, right? Usually, in an ideal world, you would appoint a commission of inquiry to investigate, socio-economic issues, why a particular area is experiencing certain issues, and the recommendations thereof you make to the government. In an ideal sense, of course, from this rule of law obsessed libertarian right here. But in South Africa, which brings me back to my point into why commissions of inquiries are generally bad in our context, is that in South Africa they've been used as kangaroo courts, right? Whilst you and me are subject to being investigated by the police and going to court, politicians use commissions of inquiry as a means to skirt accountability. Now, of course, on the face of it would be how would be an investigation into certain criminal conduct be a means to skirt accountability? It is through the powers of a commission of inquiry, right, which is not a court of law. For all of the fanfare and media performism, there are no tangible consequences for those implicated in whatever is presented at a commission of inquiry. The recommendations thereof are not binding like a court of law. A commission of inquiry cannot sentence someone to a prison term. It cannot sanction someone, cannot make them pay a fine. A commission of inquiry has no powers. It only makes recommendations to the president, and the president is the one who decides whether to act on them or not. With the State Capture Commission of Inquiry, we are even seeing how hard it is for the NPA to prosecute any high-profile figure from any of those. And that is what I mean, at least personally, when I say, commissions of inquiries are not good for South Africa. And, generally in a rule of law point, right, from a libertarian standpoint of being really in line with the principle of the rule of law, this is an instance whereby those who are governing are playing by different rules than those who are governed. As I mentioned earlier, everyone else is not subject to a commission of inquiry when they are when they are found to be doing criminal activities, or when they are suspected or they are alleged or accused of having done criminal activities. Instead, the normal criminal justice system is the one that takes control of the entire process, whereas politicians are the ones who get to skirt the normal criminal justice system. At the end of it, when a recommendation is made, even if a commission of inquiry were to say a certain person is corrupt or a certain person engaged in graft, there is no actionable thing that can be done premised on that, unless the NPA then decides to prosecute. And then you ask yourself, why even bother with a commission of inquiry in duplicating resources, right? The question, of course, in my estimation, is that it is to skirt accountability. It's to try and escape accountability and pretty much operate with impunity breaking the law and not being subject to the Constitution. And this is why I am quite opposed, actually, to commissions of inquiry. I am, quite a fan of any legal system and every legal system, because I'm a jurist, right? So I'm a fan of legal rules, of order, of law emanating from, human conflicts and things like that. I am just a legal nerd, for lack of a better term, and as such, I find commissions of inquiries to undermine the spirit of a just society, because they are pretty much an easy way for those who I think should be held to an even higher standard than normal citizens, given the amount of power that they have, as we are seeing right now, for them to escape accountability. And then given the context that we have in South Africa, of course, with the budgetary constraints that we have, is it even a good idea to have a commission of inquiry in this instance? Now, of course, people on the other side would be like, this commission of inquiry is necessary. It was appointed because the allegations is that the criminal justice system in its entirety is compromised, and as such, how can it be trusted to investigate these allegations when they involve investigating, pretty much your commanding officers? And that is a valid point, but we should, be cognizant again of the point that I made the last time, right? The fact that we have a provincial commissioner being the one exposing this is a symptom of the benefits of having the federal system that we do have inherent in our constitution, even though it is not fully embraced. Now we can only imagine if it was fully embraced. Now we can only imagine if the national commissioner could not fire any, subordinates of theirs, could not frustrate their efforts, could not confiscate dockets if they so choose, right? Could not tell them to shut down a particular task force. And that only happens if we decentralize power from the one national source, right? And give it to as many avenues as possible, so that we can have 8 other Mkhwanezis who will be willing to take up the fight, and such not have commissions of inquiries, and instead have those institutions that are established to investigate these things actually investigate them. I think that is much more better in the long term than actually having a commission of inquiry, which we all know will not yield any actionable results. I think, given the history that we have with them, we can confidently say that. But of course, that is my view. Please tell me what you think. I am of the view that commissions of inquiries should not exist. Instead, the normal criminal justice system should be applied to those who are accused of criminal conduct, just as everyone else, a fundamental feature of the rule of law. And I think it is pretty hard to argue against that, but maybe you are like, hey, commissions of inquiries are necessary to investigate political corruption, given the nature of political corruption and how certain politicians who are accused of corruption or criminal conduct can interfere with investigations if they happen in the normal criminal justice system. Maybe you can make that point. I, of course, disagree with it, but please tell me all of your thoughts down below. Give the video a like. It really does help out a lot. So if you do have the time, please give it a like, share it with anyone who you think will be interested. Subscribe if you're unsubscribed. And as always, remember, stay free.